It's November 11th. JLD here, and welcome to MSTR Today in the Treasury Titans. And happy Veterans Day to all veterans who celebrate within the United States and around the world. We salute you. And nothing in this video is financial advice, but it is a great video because Strategy has acquired 487 Bitcoin for just under $50 million at 102,557 per Bitcoin, and has achieved a Bitcoin yield of 26% year to date. As of 11/9/2025, we hodl 641,692 Bitcoin, acquired for $47.54 billion at 74,000 per Bitcoin. Another huge week for Saylor and Strategy, specifically because they did not top the MSTR. They did not tap the MSTR ATM. They did 18 million in Strife. They did 4.5 million in Strike. They did 1 million in Stride, and they did 26.2 million in Stretch. Just a great week for Stretch. About 254 Bitcoin were purchased. So there's a lot of close guesses in the comments. Of course, I went with 776. I went a little over bullish, but that's the direction we're heading in, of course. But 254 just out of Stretch. Zero dilution for the MSTR shareholders. All a good thing. The iPhone moment has kicked off. Now it's just a matter of time. Let's let it cook. And I'll kind of jump up here, and you can see on the far right-hand side, you've got a growth here with the 26 million in Stretch making its first appearance. And here's the weekly MSTR proceeds, ATM proceeds. And there you go, where the 10th of November, there's nothing. Last week, there was 54 million, but very light on the old MSTR ATM in the past month or so. All right, let's keep on moving on to a great post by Zinx, who says Strategy was able to buy 487 Bitcoin for 50 million without touching the MSTR ATM. Stretch alone raised 26.2 million, which is very impressive. Expect this number to grow to hundreds of millions of dollars and then billions every week. The prefs work. Saylor and Strategy have won. Game over. And Hermes says a flatline stretch at 100 means constant ATM to benefit MSTR. This was just yesterday. We had Stretch just flatlining at 100 because every time it started to peak ahead of its head above 100, Saylor just hits that ATM, buys more Bitcoin. Life is good. The Bitcoin therapist says, congratulations to the Strategy team. They successfully raised 26 million last week via Stretch funds for the first time. They've already used this to buy more Bitcoin for their treasury without diluting common stock MSTR. The Strategy flywheel is unstoppable. And here's a little shot of exactly what Strategy did in another chart. Jeff says, why have Bitcoin treasury companies like Strategies, MSTR, and Strive's Assist shifted towards perpetual preferred equity? We believe perpetual preferred equity is a structurally superior form of amplification for a long duration asset like Bitcoin. And then here they go. Perpetual preferred equity, default concerns? No. With convertible, by the way, all these answers are yes until they're not, and I'll get there. A maturity risk? No. Refinancing risk? No. Structural common equity dilution? No. Incentives to short common equity? No. And of course, all that with convertible bonds are yes. Encumbers Bitcoin? No. Convertible notes? Sometimes. Margin requirements? No. Convertible notes? Sometimes. Duration of liability? Infinite. Convertible is fixed, and that's a big negative. This infinite, this perpetual, this is huge. Publicly traded? Yes. Ability to ATM? Yes. Convertible notes? No. It's so obvious why these are so much better. Michael Saylor has been very clear. He has no desire to ever go back to convertible notes. If he ever does, it'll be in a very specific scenario where it's so beneficial to MSTR that they just have to take it. But it honestly can and probably will never happen again. Adam says, Senate releases crypto bill draft. This is massive for Bitcoin. The Senate Agricultural Committee just dropped a massive crypto market structure bill, and Barry decided is the most pro-Bitcoin federal language we've ever seen. Nobody's talking about it yet, but you should, because this is a regulatory nuke. Why this is huge. And then he has a great thread on this. I'm going to just kind of skim through the thread, but you can definitely check out Adam's post to read the full part of this. First, Congress finally defines digital commodities. That's huge. Second, the bill creates fully regulated supervised spot Bitcoin exchanges. That's huge. Third, the bill explicitly protects self-custody and peer-to-peer transactions. That's huge. Fourth, corporate treasuries now have the clarity they've been begging for. Huge. Fifth, this bill is the foundation for the next era of U.S. Bitcoin financial rails. Huge. Bottom line, this bill is the most important pro-Bitcoin signal from Congress to date. It protects self-custody, legitimizes Bitcoin, clarifies the rules, and unlocks institutional adoption at scale. Boom. Exciting times. Highly recommend reading that through if you desire. Zinc says, Metaplanet has been far too quiet. Something is cooking. 100 million was borrowed from the 500 million credit facility and nothing else was said. The share price is still under 1 MNAV. With the recent success of Stretch and now SATA, I can only imagine how amazing the Metaplanet press will be. That's why I'm holding on to my Metaplanet shares and looking forward to the future. This is a great post by Brian that I wanted to just go through in full. For a few weeks now, I've been documenting signs of a potential sentiment turnaround in the way of the Bitcoin treasury companies. One, prominent influencer exits. Prominent influencer exits, potentially signaling the final impulse of capitulation. That's Jim Chanos. MNAV compression losing more momentum near 1x. Value investors entering the space seeing Bitcoin treasuries at current valuations as Bitcoin ETFs with a call option on management's execution. Jim Chanos is unwinding his long BTC, short MSTR trade. The Wall Street Journal publishing an article on Bitcoin treasury company sell-offs. This is late in the trend, of course. And there are other factors as well that will benefit, such as rate cuts, QT ending, U.S. government shutdown ending. All these things is huge. So one, Bitcoin will be an integral part of the future global financial system. You know it. I know it. It's so true. Number two, Bitcoin appreciation will, on average, continue to outpace interest rates over the next 10 to 20 years. Absolutely going to happen. That's why these press are so huge. Thank you for that, Brian. Pierre Rochard says, history repeats itself. And this is just, back in 2022, but Michael Saylor bet billions on Bitcoin and lost. And then, of course, his stock went up 3,300%. So that was just like, such a terrible call. And now it's happening again. So you're in the right place at the right time, in my opinion. And then Rob says, in hindsight, MSTR will seem so obvious to all, but in this moment, looking past short-term volatility, only those that truly understand Bitcoin, its value, and the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity enabled by the invention of digital credit really get it. This is our opportunity. Rob, so well said, so true. Thank you for these just very, very brilliant words, in my opinion. It's going to be so obvious in hindsight, so obvious what Michael Saylor and Strategy are doing with Bitcoin and how they're leading the way and how Metaplanet is following, how Assist and Strive is following. It's just absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to be here. I hope you are too. There's some great words from Michael Saylor coming up with his Schwab interview. So hang on tight. Fire Nation, when you want more for your business, more privacy, more guidance, more success, it all starts with Northwest Registered Agents. These legends have been helping entrepreneurs launch and grow their businesses for nearly 30 years. They're the largest registered agent and LLC service in the U.S. with over 1,500 corporate guides, real people who know your state's laws and actually care about helping you win. With Northwest, you can build your complete business identity, everything from what your customers see to what they don't, operating agreements, meeting minutes, compliance paperwork, and more. You'll get thousands of free resources, lawyer drafted forms, and step-by-step guides all in one place, and you don't even need to create an account to access them. Best part, privacy is automatic. Northwest never sells your data and handles everything in-house. Don't wait. Protect your privacy, build your brand, and get your complete business identity in just 10 clicks and 10 minutes. Visit www.northwestregisteredagent.com/JLD free and start building something amazing. Get more with Northwest Registered Agent at www.northwestregisteredagent.com/JLD free. Senator Cynthia Lummis recently announced that funding for a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve can start anytime. This is a massive step forward for a strategic crypto stockpile, and no surprise, was soon followed by a new all-time high for Bitcoin. If you're looking to buy more Bitcoin, BitIRA can help. In fact, BitIRA will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into Bitcoin. This also allows you to buy Bitcoin using pre-tax funds, then continue to invest in it over time as you do any other retirement account. And if you want, you can even add XRP, Ethereum, or other cryptos. BitIRA protects your assets with end-to-end insurance, highly secure storage, multi-encryption, and is registered with the US government. Your IRA is fully IRS compliant. Best of all, you can trade crypto within your retirement account without incurring taxes on any buys or sells. Just go to bitira.com/JLD and request a free info guide. Once you do that and open your IRA, you'll get a free ledger. Think about this. In March, President Trump signed an executive order for the Treasury to manage 200,000 Bitcoin as the foundation for a reserve. That's just the foundation. Go to bitira.com/JLD to open a tax-sheltered IRA in Bitcoin.
And it certainly has been gaining traction. I mean, crypto has got so many tailwinds this year. I mean, more regulatory clarity and support, more corporate adoption, institutional appetite, and also legislative wins. I mean, which one has been the biggest tailwind for the space, and what continues to drive it higher?
There's been about half a dozen massive milestones in the past 24 months. The first one was the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs in January of 24. And that sparked the explosion and the explosive success of IBIT, which went from $0 to $100 billion in less than 2 years. And it's the most successful ETF in the history of Wall Street. So that was a big deal, the endorsement of the SEC. The second big deal was the red sweep in November when you had a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin administration. We went from one supporter in the cabinet, Gary Gensler was a Bitcoin believer, 1 out of 12, to all 12 cabinet members, the president, the vice president, the head of the SEC, the head of the CFTC, the head of the Treasury, the head of Commerce, the head of, RFK, the head of, the Housing Authority, Bill Pulte, Kelly Loeffler, and Howard Lutnick. So you all of a sudden have 12 positive cabinet members from one, and that was a big deal. The third big milestone was FASB's adoption of fair value accounting for crypto assets. Before that point, and that took place at the beginning of this year, beginning of 2025. Before that point, if you're a public company, you could mark down your losses on Bitcoin, but you could never realize the gains, right? It's literally an asset where you could only lose, you could never win, right? So the entire accounting rule was a deck stacked against you. And so fair value accounting meant that our equity, for example, went from 3 billion to 50 plus billion in 12 months, right? But if it was not for fair value accounting, we would still have $3 billion instead of 50 billion. So that was very prejudicial and hostile accounting, and that flipped in January. I think the fourth big milestone is all of the pro-crypto and pro-Bitcoin guidance that came out of Treasury, the OCC, the FDIC, and the Federal Reserve. And the key point there is most banks in the United States and the rest of the world were afraid to custody Bitcoin. They were afraid to lend against it. They were afraid to do business with it under the previous administration. And I think the guidance that came out of the current administration delivered a message, which is not only is it safe for you to custody and extend credit against these assets, it's really imperative because the United States wants to be the crypto capital of the world, and we want to lead in digital assets, and that means our banks need to lead in digital assets. So that you can attribute to the president and to the Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent.
What's the second best? There is no second best.